We have a presentation. Tonight we have Robert Fortunato, who's going to make a presentation of the Green Idea House. I believe, Robert, this is a continuing update.
Absolutely.
So I'll turn it over to you, and thank you for coming tonight.
Mr. Mayor, City Council staff, it's a pleasure to be with you once again to give you an update on the progress on the Green Idea House. So we have done quite a bit of construction. Anybody who's driven by our house on Prospect Avenue knows that we are up. We actually have a roof on for the rains, so we're very happy about that. Just wanted to run through a couple of the sort of milestones. There's plenty of activity there, and we have a website up, greenideahouse.com, for those who are interested in a little bit more of the detail. But I wanted to give a couple of the broad strokes this evening. I want to start with the gratitude, because this would be impossible without your support and the support of Public Works and the Planning Department. Incredible public servants who make this possible, and otherwise it would be way too hard. And my friends who have similar houses in other jurisdictions tell me that it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible to get through the red tape and everything else. The people who work on your staff are not only highly trained and qualified, but they're willing not to push the boundaries of the zoning or anything else like that, but to find creative solutions to the problems that we face on the project. So thank you for that. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate all the people who have stepped forward. The last time we were here, we were talking about a diversion rate from the landfill of 97.5%, and how we actually got to that diversion rate. So from the place of basically taking and trying to save every board that we could and everything that we could, or repurpose it, now we're in the process of construction, and what I'd like to do is recap up to the point of capping off the building, basically. So what we've done in the nature of our project, I want to make sure that we don't lose the focus. So for tonight's presentation, a very specific thing. Why did we go with wood versus steel, for example? You know, basic questions. But people want to know, you know, as they're attempting to build something, you know, why we're doing that. You know, how we went, what kind of wood we chose, you know, that was environmentally friendly. Toxicity and what are called V.O.Cs are also an important component of this, what are called volatile organic compounds. Really important, and I'll explain why in a second. And not only did we attempt to divert 97.5% from the landfill, we also tried to use what would have gone to the landfill for other things that we didn't have on site, and we'll explain a couple of things that we're doing there. The last thing is, you might have read in the papers that there was a little bit of a controversy about our solar panels. And, you know, it's easy for us to talk about that because we have such a high-profile project. And we want to make sure that it's really clear from the onset that all of our solar panels, the whole solar array is under the 25-foot height limit. So I just want to state that really clearly. There's been a misrepresentation of that in the papers and so forth, and we just want to, you know, have the opportunity to set that straight a little bit. So why are we doing this project? I want to bring that up first and foremost because it's foundational. I know there's a meeting tonight about the AES plant, and the fact is we wouldn't need an AES plant if in fact everyone was doing what we're doing, getting to net zero energy. If everyone did what we did, it would absolutely obliterate the need for the thing. So one problem off the table. So this is the idea, this is the point of the project. The picture you see there is my son's bedroom window sill. The soot that you see on my fingertip right there is the burning of carbon. That burning of carbon is linked to heart disease, lung disease, and cancer, right? That's what started the project. I want us to stay clear on that because it's easy to get distracted with all the things that we're doing and all the things that happen in the project. And in the process of renovating, obviously we had a mission that would create a community around the idea that anyone can and should build with energy efficiency and sustainability in mind. I know that gets lost a little bit in the fervor of what we're doing. First question is, people ask us, so what are you building with, right? And the simple answer is that trees grow themselves, steel doesn't, you know, in just those simple terms. The fact is that there are no steel mills here that actually create I-beams, which is really interesting. We have a steel plant in Fontana, and we're trying to source the metal skin for a building from that plant. They don't actually make any I-beams. So it's impossible to get any locally sourced, steel. And the amount of embodied energy, the amount of energy it takes to make steel is incredible. Trees grow themselves, essentially. So when we did the energy analysis about that, that's where trees come on top. The difficult part is that if we use too many trees, we just hit 7 billion inhabitants of this planet, right? 7 billion people, that means we would need a lot of wood. So we have to be very conscious of the kind of wood. But there's FSC and there's SFI. SFI is the industry standard for that. FSC is a third-party certifier of the wood. I have a picture of Easter Island up there. There was a thriving community on Easter Island. And what did they do? They used all the trees. And what happened when they used all the trees? Their civilization died out. It's a very simple story, but they were on an island, we're on an island. It's the planet, right? So we have to be mindful of these things as we use the wood. So we try to use as much of the FSC certified wood as we possibly could. The second thing we wanted to watch out for was the toxicity in the building. Everybody talks about low V.O.C, volatile organic compounds. And generally, they say if you get a liter of the material and it's less than 70 grams per liter, it's fine, right? So I got stuff that was 50 grams per liter, and I thought, great, aren't I doing a great thing? Until I read the label. And the label, as you can see up there, says, keep out of reach of children. This product contains chemicals known to be the state of California to cause cancer, birth defects, or other reproductive harm. Repeated and prolonged occupational overexposure to solvents with permanent brain, nervous system, liver, and kidney damage may also cause cardiac arrhythmia, okay? So this stuff is really quite dangerous. So there's a difference between volatile organic compounds and toxicity. So we found stuff that's actually less expensive, doesn't have the solvents in it, and has 20 grams per liter of the VOCs. So why do I care? Because by the time we move into the building, that will have off-gassed, right? Most of the stuff will be gone. But the fact is, the people who work on the site are family people, right? We care about them primarily. They're having overexposure to these kinds of chemicals. And the fact is, from a social justice standpoint, they're the least able to get sick, right? They're the least able to be sick, right? So from a social justice standpoint, this means a lot, all right? So what I'm going to be asking of you at the end of this presentation is to think about what you guys are doing in your builds going forward, and to say, are you holding the same kind of standards for your workers going forward from here? Next, I want to talk about the reuse a little bit. We had an opportunity to partner with the reuse people, and an incredible group who helped us get to the diversion rate of 97.5%. And what they did was, after the termite guy came to my house and said, you have to rip the roof off this, after we tried to save every single board, not only did they help us divert and find homes for our stuff, but they found for us, if you see the truck up there, I rented a truck and went up to see them. They found for us enough wood, recycled from an 80-year-old building, redwood planks, to do all our baseboards, to do the roof that we had to rip off, cabinets, and on and on and on. So not only do we have to find new homes for stuff, we have to take it in and actually use it and find creative uses. Had a very skilled carpenter on site. He was planing the tops off of those boards. They're absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to show them to you when we get them done. So it's about the reuse. Another thing that we're doing that's non-standard, it's called fiberboard sheathing. And instead of plywood, we've sheeted the building with this material. It's made of ground up pulp that otherwise didn't have a home. And as a result, it's actually an old school product. If you think about buildings that were built in the 50s, that were built with this kind of material as sheathing, not only does it come from recycled product, but when it's done its natural life, it turns back into dirt, right? And that's the objective, right? Either it turns back into the product that it came from, like steel, wood, or it turns back into dirt, which is useful as, but there's an organic binder in here, and wood pulp. That's the only thing in here. The other beauty of it, it has a permeability. So if this ever gets wet inside the wall, it actually breathes. Plywood doesn't breathe. The other thing about plywood, it has a lot of glues, formaldehyde, and other adhesives in there, which means it never can turn back into dirt, right? It's toxic at that level. And not only toxic for the earth, but toxic for the people who breathe it. Again, the guys on site primarily. So we're trying to do, these are small things. They don't cost any more money, but we get a much better area barrier, a much better building, and for the people who are working on the site as well as us living in it, it's a much more habitable thing. So last, I just wanted to talk a little bit about solar panels versus views, because views are really important. We all live on this hill. We have to protect each other's views. And again, I wanted to reiterate that we are completely under the 25-foot height limit, despite the things that were reported in the press. As you can see from the picture here, that's the top of our building. We could have built a much larger building on that site, and we chose not to. We actually chose to keep 10-foot view corridors for our backside neighbors. So we're trying to be respectful and thoughtful all the way through. If you look at the backside neighbors, you can see that actually the trees and the chimneys are much more of view obstruction than our building ever would be for both of the neighbors in the back. So their backside neighbors don't have a view as a result of the trees and the chimneys. Here in Hermosa Beach, you can build on top of the highest point of your building an 8-foot tall chimney, 8 foot tall, with an unspecified metal cap that's 5 foot wide and 5 foot deep. It's an incredible, I mean, what we could have built there would have been enormous in terms of a view obstruction. The fact is that this is a zero carbon building, so therefore we won't need a chimney at all. But what I would like you to consider in the future is to think about, do we put some sort of guideline in place for chimneys and or trees? Because views are really important. And if you look around the city, they're much more of an obstruction than any of the solar panels that I've seen, period. But if you want to put guidelines on the solar panels as well, make it easy for people. That's the right thing to do, just make it easy for people. Because those trees and chimneys are actually obstructions for the solar panel power generation as well. So there's a sort of a twofer in that process. So as you guys are in the process of approving buildings and projects and so forth, I do want you to think about the steel versus wood question, the certified versus non-certified wood, low V.O.C. versus low toxicity, reuse as it's possible, and the views, thinking about chimneys and trees as well as solar panels in the whole panoply of the view equation. So as always, it's a pleasure being with all of you, and thank you again for your support. We genuinely appreciate it. Thank you.
I have a question.
Thank you.
Please.
Obviously, I'm very impressed by the reusability that you had. I'm wondering what your thoughts are in terms of this process of potential like incentives based on diversion percentage rate in terms of rebuilding, say past a certain threshold. Do you think that would be something that maybe we should consider?
I have friends who have done projects in Long Beach, for example, and they get 100% of their permit fees back if, in fact, they hit a certain diversion rate. And in my experience in looking at other building projects, there's generally a giant pile of trash on the front of the building. You know this, Mr. Tucker, and an unsorted pile can only go to the dump, right? Sorted piles, they actually have value. And as I just described last time, people come on my site because we have a sorted pile of lumber and they want lumber. And they just come, I put an ad, and it goes away by itself, which is magic. That's 100% diversion when it goes away by itself. And so those kinds of incentives, I think, are not only good for the environment, but good for the contractors because they're more efficient. They can be more efficient if they get into the habit of doing so. It's just not the protocol. It's not the current protocol. But it's an excellent question. I think it deserves to be explored. Anything else? No? Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.